you think of anime-based games, what comes to mind? Is it the usual fighter, the side-scroller, or a mobile gacha game? RPGs tend to fall in the unexplored category for whatever reason, until now. Well, 2007 technically, but that's besides the point. The critically acclaimed series Inuyasha is considered a classic for a reason. It's an action-filled historical drama rife with romance and comedy, as well as some supernatural and horror elements sprinkled throughout. Inuyasha is a series often associated with other series like Sailor Moon, Hunter x Hunter, Neon Evangelion, Trigun, etc. In other words, it's a damn good series. So, dear viewer, you might be asking why I'm talking about such a beloved series in a shining light. Well, with every good piece of media out there, something dwells in the shadows. Let's get into it. Inuyasha was birthed by the brilliant mind of Takahashi Rumiko, or Rumiko Takahashi here in the West. While Inuyasha isn't her first work, I'd argued it's her most well-known one besides Ranma 1/2, and that series was also huge. Takahashi is a living legend. She's an incredibly famous mangaka and producer in Japan, and she's basically a household name. She's even dubbed the Princess of Manga for being the first female mangaka to gain major success in the shonen genre. She walked so other female mangaka could run. We love seeing women make names for themselves and dominate. She has my utmost respect. Anyway, Inuyasha was in serialization from 1996 to 2008 with a handful of movies and an anime to boot. It shouldn't come across as a surprise to hear that numerous video games followed its success, with the most recent being Inuyasha, A Tale of Rebirth. Chances are you've read the title before clicking this video, so you'll know that we will not be covering that particular title today. Instead, we're looking at the North American exclusive Inuyasha, Secret of the Divine Jewel. The Divine Jewel was released on the Nintendo DS on January 23, 2007, developed by Frontier Developments and published by Bandai Namco Games. Bandai Namco is an absolute powerhouse in the world of video games and merchandise surrounding said games. You've most likely come across something from Bandai Namco without realizing it. They're that prevalent. On the other hand, Frontier Developments is a British video game company with various titles, most notably their Roller Coaster Tycoon series and their contribution of Kinectimals for the atrocity that was the Xbox Kinect. Again, I'm left in a predicament where the companies involved have an idea as to what they're doing, but they come out with this. I'll discuss what issues I had along some reviews later. Like my last video, The Divine Jewel is a turn-based RPG. The player moves from block to block in the overworld system and engages with random enemy encounters. This in itself isn't new, nor revolutionary. However, just like in my last video, you should really watch it. Enemy encounters happen every 2 seconds or so. I don't know how I've managed to pick up 2 separate games where I can barely take 2 steps forward without being dragged into battle. Carrying on. We're set in a party with the main cast and each takes a turn to choose an action as to what to do, whether that be attacking, using magic, defending, that sort of thing. Items can be used to increase attributes like attack and HP, while others work as ailments to cure debuffs. Leveling up comes solely from defeating enemies, and that typically means increasing stats and nothing more. Each character has all of their abilities unlocked at square one rather than gaining a new power at a higher level. There is an exception to this, but I'll cover it in the story section. Basically, it's a lot of punch punch, shuffle forward a few steps, punch punch. It's a never-ending cycle. Before we continue, I'll say that discussing the plot inevitably covers spoilers, so be forewarned. Despite the game being directly named after Inuyasha, we play as an American girl named Janice. Janice is a big deal. Very important. Booting up the game shows an overview of Inuyasha and its major plot points to establish what the series is about and provide a proper background. We don't have to know a single thing about the manga or anime because this cutscene explains it all. Inuyasha and Kagome are unsurprisingly arguing about Kagome returning home to school. This leads her to talking about her new friend from America, cue jealous dog boy. It's fine though because the new friend is a girl because, queer people don't exist. The game is officially started with a bodiless voice talking about how they recognize the passing scenery filled with sakura, stone paths, pillars, and old buildings. It transitions to two fancy-looking people being followed by a not-so-fancy-looking person. Our unknown narrator realizes that they're looking at Japan, specifically a rural Tokyo. Demons appear alongside a masked figure with the most anime-looking hair I've seen. Again, the narrator knows this person, or at least knew them at one point. The cutscene changes to our heroine's home. Janice is arguing with her father about moving to Japan, and she's understandably upset about the whole ordeal. However, she already knows Japanese, so there's no real issue here, and they take off immediately. This time, we're inside a classroom, witnessing the conversation between Kagome and Janice. Inuyasha shows up because why wouldn't he? And he takes a particular fascination in Janice, mostly because she stinks, and even reaches the point of asking her if she's a human. This guy just oozes charisma, I swear. We get to see the classic sit boy in action before Kagome drags Inuyasha away. Of course, Janice knows of the rumor of Kagome dating a bad boy and wants to ask her if it's true. However, Kagome doesn't show up at school the following day, so Janice takes it upon herself to ask Kagome's friends where she lives and heads over. Upon arriving, we bump into Kagome's grandfather, and he claims that she has a mysterious illness and that it's best for her not to get too close before bolting off. Naturally, we walk around a bit, find nothing of interest, and leave. Janice hears a voice calling out to her and turns around instead, heading over to the smaller shrine where the notorious well resides. A demon unexpectedly appears and attacks Janice. Before it can deliver the killing blow, a mysterious monk shows up and rescues her. The monk refers to her as the daughter of Kamui, mentions how weak her body is at the moment and how the demon easily could have bodied her. The following conversation basically goes, "Is this a dream? Lol, no. By the way, I am Monk Sen and Kagome is waiting in the well alongside your fate before he disappears." Also, side note, but when Janice goes through the well, she instantly understands that it connects worlds through time with no explanation at all. Don't know if it was cut dialogue or what. Now that we're in the feudal era, we once again run into Monk Sen. This time he explains that this world is different from her own and demons roam the land. As protection, he lends her to Shikione, or a powerful type of servant spirit, and this acts as our party for the time being. Heading to Kaede's village, we run into a villager and he runs off, clearly spooked. Janice considers him rude and wonders why he's wearing weird clothes, even though Monk Sen just told her that she's in the feudal era now. Anyway, Kaede comments on Janice's weird apparel and stranger hair color when we first meet her. She mentions how she reminds her of when she first met Kagome, to which Janice jumps on that shit. The screen fades to black as it transitions to Kaede's house, where the two were clearly discussing prior events. Kaede tells Janice that Kagome does not have an illness and that she's actually down south because she sensed a demon nearby. Janice goes after her anyway because she'll be fine with the Shikione, I guess. I don't know. Going south, we arrive at Mikage Creek and bump into Moroku and Sangu. Miroku, being Moroku, is like, "A girl! Will you bear my child?" To which, out of context, that sounds horrible, but to anyone unfamiliar with the series, that's kind of his catchphrase because he's a perverted monk. After a stupidly long amount of time traversing through the area, we finally find Kagome and Shippo. Kagome is like, "Why you here?" To which Janice fires back with, "Girl, why you here? You're not sick, what?" A loud noise occurs off screen and Inuyasha comes running into view, yelling for Kagome like he always does. We fight, I try to use Inuyasha's charge move, he misses, we continue. Afterwards, Janice and Inuyasha finally recognize each other from the previous day. Janice is about to ask him what he meant when he said she didn't smell like a human, but gets interrupted by Moroku and Sango's return. As the others talk amongst themselves, Janice goes over to a shining object on the ground and, oh boy, turns out it's a Shikon jewel shard. She picks it up and immediately passes out. There's another transition, though this time we're back at Kaede's house and Janice is in the midst of explaining to the others how she got there. I'll say that right here is the incredible part of Inuyasha saying he'll just cut the shard out of Janice's body with the attitude of, "You'll be fine, no biggie." It's clear that something's up for Janice to have the shard inside her body but not have anything wrong with her. It's revealed that the shard has melted into her body. It's also decided that she'll accompany this motley crew since it's the safest option for the time being. Again, transition. But this time, Janice is sitting outside by her lonesome when she hears something calling for her. There's a neat little part here that when we're walking around, we can overhear Sango and Miroku talking about his behavior and their relationship, which I thought was a nice touch. Once again, we meet Monk Sen, and he says that Janice finally has the power of the Kamui. He promptly takes the Shikioni back and launches us into battle so we can see that she now has magical abilities. Like I mentioned earlier, she has all of her spells available, so there's nothing to unlock or learn. Monk Sen explains that the Kamui Tama, aka the power of a god, resides within her and that the absorbed shard has awoken it in her soul. Inuyasha conveniently shows up, now figuring out why Janice smelt weird. Miroku also shows up and says the shard melted because of the Kamui Tama. It's really gotta hit home that she's special. Sen carries on and says that demons will want both the shard and Kamui Tama, and if she returns it, she'll be freed. As he disappears, he directs her to go visit the god on Mount Habaki. Our so-called journey begins the very next day. The first objective is to head to Masuko village due to the strange rumors milling about. At the moment, the villagers are preparing for war against another village. During their search for further directions, Miyoga makes his appearance by casually sucking down on Janice's blood. He tells the group that the lord of the castle is a demon, and they get accosted by guards before he can really say anything else. Kagome and Janice are separated from the others, and they have a bit of a back and forth about Kagome being in love with Inuyasha and some other teen girl stuff for a bit. We discover that the narrator from the opening cutscene was actually Janice having a reoccurring dream. They're then taken to the castle's lord and princess. The lord makes it pretty clear that he's a demon since he makes a show of sensing the Kamui Tama and the shard inside Janice. He wants both to fight the war against the other village, Sakata. Cue the Inuyasha game coming to the rescue and a boss fight ensues. Now that the lord is dead, we have to find our way out of the castle. This eventually brings us to an underground passage where we run into Princess Usababa again, and she's the real demon in charge. Again, we go through another boss fight, get told that demons want the godly powers and shard, they'll be going after Janice, yada yada. The guards believe the group killed the lord, so we're considered criminals for the time being and can go through certain areas on the map. Instead, we hike through the neighboring mountains to find the Habaki Shrine. At said shrine, there's a rock adorned with seals covering a very obvious tunnel. Janice touches the rock, and somehow the Kamui reacts to it and splits the thing in half. The crew heads inside, and we're shown another cutscene of Monk Sen just standing there, watching. He goes outside and, oh, there's Kikyo! She mentions that a god's power is usually pure, but this certain Kamui is ... She never gets to finish the sentence because Sen poofs away. Before the scene changes, she wonders to herself if Inuyasha will follow the influence of the Kamui. Inside the caves, we venture around until we find the statue of the god of Habaki, then a series of torii gates that lead to a platform with a conveniently sized spot for found statue. The statue acts as a Yorishiro, an object that connects the real world to the spirit one. The god is summoned, and he recognizes the Kamui Tama and thinks that Tsugimi is standing before him. Remember this name because Tsugimi comes up during the rest of the game and she's very important to the story. In short, she was a human blessed with the Kamui Tama and was supposed to marry a god named Tatara. While she could fight demons with the power, she eventually fell to injuries and sought shelter within this very cave. It was thought that the Kamui disappeared after her death, but it was actually passed down to Janice. As such, this divine power acts as a shield against the negative effects of the shard in Janice's body, so that's a plus. Tatara is also the wicked anime hair guy from the dream, so another plus. We have something to work with. If the gang wants the shard back, they'll have to track down Tatara and return the Kamui Tama. As they go to leave, the god provides Janice with Akanemaru. If you recall, this is the exception I mentioned earlier about characters gaining new abilities in battle. This essentially gives Janice new melee attacks to pair with her magic. I'll say here that this game involves a lot of walking and fucking around and finding out. There's very little indication of where to go, and when there is, it can be easily missed when breezing through dialogue. Anyway, we make way to Janeji's home, and his mother mentions a mountain path we can take because we currently can't go through the guarded checkpoint. Whilst talking, a man from Minatori village shows up and says that this monkey-looking demon has attacked. Ding ding bitch, it's Naraku. We're really picking up steam with the character cameos. Outside, we see yet another character. This time it's Kohaku, and Sango and Miroku take off after him. We continue to the village, and Naraku's tent hangs in the air alongside Samiyosho. Clearly, we get into a battle with Naraku, and clearly he's into Janice for her power. Like most of his appearances in the series, it's just a puppet, but now he'll be appearing more often because of the Kamui. On to the next village. Here in Yamasachi Village, a soul collector flies overhead. Great. We track it down because Kikyo is obviously nearby, and Inuyasha disappears. Great. It is pretty funny how Janice picks up on his shit right away, and you can tell she's ready to tell Kagome to dump his ass. We have to talk to Kikyo, but Kagome stays behind for obvious reasons alongside Sango and Miroku. Shippo joins us. Again, Janice magically knows certain things with no explanation, and she asks who this Kikyo is. At no point did someone name drop her or whatever, but I guess I had to pay it no mind. Shippo explains the complicated love triangle known throughout the series, and Janice gets pissed for Kagome. Which, yes, Queen, come on, kick his ass. Unfortunately, the two get separated in the fog, leaving Janice to meet Kikyo on her own. Kikyo actually made Inuyasha disappear because she wanted to have a one-on-one with Janice. She knows about the Kamui and claims that Janice is using it to take away Inuyasha, how it's too powerful for humans, how it'll destroy her. Nar, Inuyasha! Kikyo is actually kind of scary here and looks ready to stab a bitch, but Monk Sen pops up and saves the day. Janice runs, and we're left to witness the conversation of how Inuyasha's strength is needed for the journey at foot. He disappears, and that's seemingly the end of things, but wait! Shocker! He's under the demon blood binding spell! The scene returns to Janice regrouping with the others. She and Shippo dog on Inuyasha, pun intended, about him being a two-timer, and it's clear that both couples in the mix are arguing. Returning to the village, we find that demons have invaded and attacked the villagers. The leader is a demon named Sara, and she too recognizes Janice as the vessel of the Kamui and takes off with these soul-drained villagers. After tracking her down to a cave in the mountains, there's more funny hee-hee-ha-ha moments of Inuyasha getting his ass handed to him about being a womanizer. We fight her, she runs away, the villagers block us. There are these weird red jewel things on the ground. Kikyo randomly appears and says that they're from the demon blood binding spell, and these orbs are the villagers' crystallized blood. The spell essentially makes the victim a slave to the caster. Janice can return the blood to the bodies and change the villagers back with her divine power, so she does just that. Back in the village, the villagers are returned to normal, and Janice has a conversation with Inuyasha. She apologizes to him and says she understands Kikyo better now, but she's still rooting for Kagome and he needs to get his head out of his ass. Respect. We then go to Sakata Village, the other side of the war mentioned before. However, at this point, people know that the Lord of Masuko Castle was killed by a demon, so the group are no longer being hunted down. The checkpoint can now be traveled through, but a permit is required to pass. Kagome also randomly brings up midterms and how she and Janice need to return, like, okay, cool, we're kind of in the middle of something important? Within the village is a couple saying that they've been hearing creepy things at night, like the sound of a woman crying. Outside their home is a female ghost that only Miroku and Janice can see. Turns out she died from an unnatural death, so we bury her properly. I apparently lost the footage for this part, but we have to return to the modern era for those stupid midterms. Kagome clearly has an understanding with her family about time traveling so often, but Janice does not, so she worries about how her parents will react when she turns up out of the blue. Have no fear, Monk Sen is here, with a clone of Janice. The two girls go through the midterms, and afterwards, Inuyasha picks them up in their world. However, he senses a demon immediately after, so we have to travel to a nearby park. We catch two people running away, screaming about monsters, so it's up to us to figure out why. We'll eventually come across the shrine. Lo and behold, it actually belongs to Monk Sen. It's explained that demons used to live in Benten Forest, aka the park, and they were sealed away within a spiritual barrier. Like everything else, apparently, they've been growing stronger because of the Kamui Tama. We're tasked to find the seals hidden around the park so we can deal with the demons instead of sealing them away again. Again, super easy boss fight, no problem. Back to the feudal era we go. A cutscene plays of Shippo mentioning how it's strange that Janice can pass through the well like Kagome. Both Moroku and Sango tell him it's because they both have special abilities, and they'll be able to use the well whether they're aware of them or not. That being said, the whole point of the journey is to return the Kamui, and if it gets returned during this time period, you can put the pieces together. The gang is reunited as a whole, and fast travel is now unlocked. Yippee! Again, there's no, indication of what the hell to do here, so walk through it is. So, and this is very specific, we have to return to Sakata Village and sleep at its inn. Janice undergoes the same dream from the beginning, but she's woken up because the village is under attack. Surprise, surprise, there's a shard nearby along with Naraku's scent. We then have to return to the house where the female ghost was buried. However, now she has a body because a shard is in her possession. A fight ensues, she's defeated, but then, she turns into a red samurai named Akagane, and this little bitch is an incarnation of Naraku. He was following the group when they dealt with said spirit, so he deemed it useful and gave it a shard to fight, but to no avail. I bodied him. More nonsensical bullshit, no indications for this at all, but we go back to the mountain path used earlier when the checkpoint couldn't be used. It's here we finally bump into Sexy Demon Man and his followers. Janice is interesting, but his whole attitude is like, damn son, you pathetic for relying on a god. Osore Valley holds a cave that acts as a village of sorts for outsiders. Kohaku apparently passed through, obsessing over the neighboring valley with a bunch of weird bees following him. Needless to say, we have to go find him. There's a one-sided battle with the Semeosho, and Kohaku is brought back to the cave to rest. A villager asks Moroku for a favor, so him and the other two boys take off after him. Kagome soon follows. Janice and Sango have a bit of a one-on-one, and Janice learns of Sango's tragic backstory. There's some serious girl bonding here, and it's nice to see. Janice goes to find the rest of the gang, but finds that nobody at all is within the cave. Sango's voice cries out for Kohaku, so we rush back to find him conscious once again. He repeats over and over that he has to go to the valley no matter what, and neither girl can talk him out of it. The three set out as a new party, though Kohaku remains unplayable. We return to the valley and, oh look! It was a trap all along set up by Akagane. The preceding fight is one that is deemed a necessary loss for the story. Akagane is about to give Sango the stabby night-night, but Kohaku stops him in a disconnected way, much like various instances in the series. Inuyasha and crew show up, the whole cave thing was a trap, the poisonous mist in the air threw off his sense of smell, and now it's time to kick some ass for real this time. Kagura makes her first and only appearance, and that's to whisk Kohaku away. It's funny how many times in my notes that I have in all caps, I have no indication of what to do. So, the next step is to go to Hiba Village, where we come across a lady praying to Tatara. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. Turns out this lady is a priestess, and Tatara is the god worshipped in the north, where the villagers happen to hail from. This whole ordeal allows us to use fast travel to go north to a new area. Also, when I say fast travel, I mean that Hachi gives us a lift and we don't have to deal with enemies, so it technically is fast travel. Now that we're in the north, there's a number of new areas to explore. Our first stop is Suzuki Plains Village, a place strangely void of young villagers. An older gentleman tells us that demons have kidnapped the young and able-bodied to build a fort up north for a demon named Gorai. As such, we find said fort, but it's locked tight. Inuyasha jumps the wall with no problems whatsoever, but there's a bit of a commotion, because they use scent beads on his ass and knock him the hell out. The gate is opened though, so that's a win. Also, Gorai looks so much like an OC you would have come across on DeviantArt or something, and I can't exactly put my finger on why, but he just does, and I can't take him seriously for any time during this game. While yes, Gorai technically did kidnap the villagers, he's basically like, alright, you can take them, I'm done with them, which is a big, huh? He also knows that we're seeking Datara and have to climb over the mountain. This guy is dropping red flags left and right, and the amount of foreshadowing is just, ugh. We can now finally get to Datara's shrine. I can see the end on the horizon. Unsurprisingly, Monk Sen awaits us. Datara is sleeping on the other side of the massive door and will need the aid of his followers, Mitsuguri and Sagagaki, to wake him up. The shrine holds these keys of the gods that we'll need to grab before we head off. Both gods are found in their own respective places, such as a tower and a waterfall. Mitsuguri Tower is a maze consisting of arrays, while the waterfall is a continuous straight shot that we have to walk along for quite a while. Alas, meeting either of them, we see that they're the fancily dressed people we saw in Janice's dream. Both have to be beaten in a boss fight, and afterwards there's conversations held about how they recognize Sugimi by the Kamui-tama and wonder if Janice is a reincarnation. They agree to help open the door for Datara, and we are good to go. Now that the door is open, Datara is finally seen in the flesh. I tried so hard and got so far. Like Inuyasha, Datara has been sealed away by a sacred arrow. Sen provides us a bit more lore, saying that Datara wasn't a bad god, but had the tendency to go ballistic when angry, so the villagers offered sacrifices to quell his rage. A specific villager, Sugimi, wasn't having this shit, and her having the guts to stand up to him scored her a husband. Janice removes the arrow, there's a flash of light, and everyone gets knocked out. Gorai shows up out of nowhere, and this whole thing was a part of his giant plan. He refers to Datara as the god of demons. Nani? What'd I say again? Oh yeah. I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. The group awakens. Mitsuguri and Sogagaki are there, and they tell us that Datara is actually wearing a demon mask, hence the evil tendencies. Sugagaki opens a portal that goes back in time 500 years ago, and it's up to us to see what happened on the wedding day instead of the whole story being told to us. It's time traveling within time traveling. That's not confusing at all. We touch down at a mansion that has Inuyasha feeling a bit sentimental, or as much as he can be. Either way, the place reminds him of his mother. Coincidentally, the princess of the manor is named Izayoi, who happens to share the same name of his mother. Either way, she and Sugumi are friends, and she tells us to head to the nearby village to track Sugumi down. We then traverse to Shinonome village, and everyone is excited about the wedding that is supposed to take place the next day. But ho-ho, what's this? Sugumi's mother? And she's holding a baby? Oh, the baby is Sugumi's! Damn! Finding the village elder, he tells us that Datara is an Aramitama, or a violent god. Sugumi suppressed his rage like a bad bitch, and he wanted to marry her because of it. However, since his rage has lessened, demons took it as the A-OK to come out of hiding. Anyway, Sugumi isn't found anywhere, so back to the mountain we go, and oh god, it's on fire. Finally, we get a cutscene of Sugimi protecting Izayoi with the Kamui, so we charge in there to fight. There's the typical sharing of introductions. Sugumi says to Janice that it feels like they've met before. Oh damn, and she has the Kamui too. Haha. An evil aura fills the air. The Hokora is broken. This is a shrine that holds a mask that a powerful monk got after defeating a demon long ago. Worshipping the mask at the Hokora brings protection, but the mask cannot leave its spot whatsoever lest there be danger. This sets up the new objective, which is to obviously go to the shrine. Figures that Gorai is at the shrine when we get there. What sucks is that he gets away with the mask no matter what, because we're essentially in an illusion that shows us the past. The theft and the fire get pushed to the side as the game transitions to the next day. Everything is set up for the wedding, but wait, where's the bride? Oh, there Sugimi goes, yelling for everyone to run for their lives as she's chased by demons and the village is set aflame. It's just all nice and cozy from here on out, I tell ya. We fight our way back to the marital deck, and Gorai is standing there, holding Sugumi's baby and staring down Datara. Well, technically it's his baby too. Whatever. Datara is like, the fuck you want, as he takes the baby back, and Gorai tells him, we wish for you to be the king of demons. Datara agrees, so the demons stop attacking. The demon mask is placed upon him, and Gorai's over here tenting his pants from excitement, but psych! Tsugumi shoots that sealing arrow, effectively killing her baby in the process. There's no way in hell that a demon will take over her husband, her child, or her home. Truly, she is the baddest bitch, but also, now sad. We get yoinked back to the feudal era, and that's it. Backstory explained. There's now this demon named Butai coming after Janice, and he knocks her off a cliff when he attacks. She gets separated from the group, but then Shippo sails down to join her so they can make their escape. We meet up with Koga. I was wondering when we get to see him. Like Kohaku, he joins the party, but we can't control him. As per usual, he goes on about Kagome being his woman, to which Janice is like, "Oh, so that's how it is," which was actually pretty funny. Koga mentions that a lot more demons have been popping up because some demon god has been revived. Good to know. We return to Datara's shrine and regroup. Koga acts as the absolute menace that he is before taking off. This shit was hilarious. The crew sleeps in the shrine overnight before returning to Gorai's fort, where Butai has been waiting. After he's defeated, Shippo asks the great question as to why demons are still coming after Janice, although Datara has been revived. Something must have happened. I want to read this next quote directly from my notes. "Oh, okay, so now we go to the other fort because that makes sense. Am I missing something here? Did I miss that he's attacking people?" Inside the fort there are Naraku puppets and demons fighting, so we use the distraction. End quote. Making our way through the fort, we eventually find Gorai along with one of Naraku's puppets. He's talking to himself about how his forces were wiped out, and I hate to tell you, buckaroo, but your day is about to go from bad to worse. A fight ensues, but before Inuyasha can deliver the final blow, Naraku stops in at the last moment to defend him. He tells Gorai that if he gets a hold of Datara's Kamui, he wouldn't need an army anyway. He makes his getaway while we're left fighting two separate puppets. Unsurprisingly, Naraku is only using Gorai to get a hold of the Kamui for himself. Who would have guessed? Now we're at the point where we can travel to the last location on either map, Tempest Tower. Was there any hint or indication about going there? No, of course not. Monk Sen stands guard out front and won't let us pass due to being under control from the demon blood binding spell. We don't fight him once, but twice. It's the exact same fight back to back. After the second time round, Kikyo shows up from God knows where and points out that he's dead and under control from the spell. If we want to get to Datara, we're going to have to break the spell and return Sen's blood to him. As such, we go all the way back to the shrine found in the modern era's park, find the way through the maze, fetch the blood orb, then backtrack. We then engage in a third battle with Sen, though this time when he's knocked out on the ground, Janice uses her power to restore her blood and yo, Monk Sen has been Tsugumi this entire time? While she did indeed die at Mount Habaki, Gorai revived her so that her Kamui could be used to bring Datara back. However, since he used the demon blood binding spell, the power was tainted, so it didn't work. The bastard kept her around for the off chance that she could bring him back. Here's where Janice comes in. Her Kamui was pure, and it was thought that she was Tsugumi's reincarnation. But if Tsugumi's was the opposite, someone else was blessed with the same divine power. Tsugumi's soul finally passes away, and she can properly rest. The gang chooses to still go after Datara because they owe it to themselves and Tsugumi. Tempest Tower is yet another network of various doorways and paths that we have to traverse in order to activate a number of arrays. Doing so brings us to meet up with Mitsuguri and Sugagaki once more, and this time it's a double team boss fight. After their defeat, Mitsuguri says that they're going to return to heaven, and Sugagaki casually drops the bomb that Janice is actually the reincarnation of Tsugumi's child. I thought that Tsugumi was just apologizing to her baby when her soul passed, not that she was indicating something towards Janice, but apparently I was wrong. We gotta reunite this family. We gotta! Or at least that is what I would say if this so-called level didn't absolutely piss in my Cheerios. I spent so long in this tower, backtracking and getting lost because of the sheer amount of enemies I kept getting in battles with. I didn't quite rage over it, but it pained me to such a degree to think about booting this game up and spending hours to not progress in the slightest degree. It pisses me off even more to know that I was so close of being to the end, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. So anyway, we're gonna watch some delightful footage from this one channel's playthrough. Thank God they had this posted. They're a real one. At the top of the tower is one final array. This array teleports us to a platform surrounded by a fiery pit. Gorai is the only thing standing between us and Tatara. Miroku tries to talk him down, saying how Naraku is playing him for the fool that he is, but Gorai is planning to use the Kamui against him instead. The group takes turns mocking his pathetic ass, as they rightfully should. If we want to save Tatara, we have to break him from the mask's control. The final battle breaks out. Gorai is dead. Tatara revives himself because he's an immortal. Duh. Janice takes it upon herself to waltz up to him and say, "Yo, if I'm your kid's reincarnation, that makes you my dad. I have a dad back home, but he kinda sucks, and you're a god." She gives him back the Kamui. I don't really know how. She just pushes out an orb of light and tells him, "I think families should stay together always." Though she just mentioned that she and her dad don't have a great relationship, but oh well. The mask falls, breaks. Tatara's face is revealed. Tsugumi's spirit reappears, although this time she's holding her baby. The three of them ascend to heaven so they can finally be together after all this time. The screen fades to black, and then we're back at the well. Everyone exchanges their goodbyes with Janice, she gives her last thanks, and then she and Kagome return to their world. Now that Janice is back home, she views things in a whole different light and narrates a monologue to close out the game. Her family will be moving back to America, and on her final day, she goes to visit Kagome at the shrine. She reminisces about the journey, and a short montage plays of some key points. As she descends the stairs, Kagome and Inuyasha catch up to her with words unwritten. The credits roll, and our journey has reached its end. Whew, that was a big one. A lot has led up to this, so let's just dive right in. I enjoyed the story. It definitely felt like a one-shot that you'd get from a movie or something. The characters felt like themselves, some lines were genuinely funny, I got to see Sesshomaru, it was a good time. The color palette was pleasing to the eyes, and I adored the art style of the sprites. It was also really neat that with each new moon, Inuyasha would lose his demon abilities and be human for some time. I'm aware that the DS was more popular at the time of this game's release, but it gave such Game Boy Advance vibes that I'm surprised they didn't pick that console from the get-go. That being said, this game was massively disappointing. Like with my previous video, A Witch's Tale, the story and art was fine and dandy. The gameplay, atrocious. How I managed to find 2 RPGs where the random encounter mechanic activated within 2 to 5 spaces instead of the average 20 is insane. Clearly, I brought it up numerous times when discussing the story. It was so distracting, so frustrating. I thought it was me, or because I had a certain thing in my inventory that made these encounters happen more often. Nope, it happened with everyone apparently. Practically every review I read while preparing my notes shared the same complaint. It scored a 46 on Metacritic and a 4 on IGN. Those are some bad numbers. And then there's Janice. While I didn't dislike her as a character, she felt very player insert, very Mary Sue. A quick note for any watchers or listeners who don't know what that is. A Mary Sue is a fanfiction term used to describe a character who can do anything and everything, is attractive, gets along with everybody, that sort of thing. They're essentially the embodiment of perfection. Other reviews brought up a good point. It felt like less of an Inuyasha game and more of a Janice game with the main characters of the series just being the background cast. Sadly, I agree. On a different note, the amount of discrepancies and lollygagging was insufferable. If I had this game after I got my DS, I'd be so screwed. There were so many specific things that had to be met before a part of the story commenced. That part of Osori Valley Cave, I tried talking to the guy in charge a handful of times and nothing happened, but that's because I didn't go all the way back to the mountain path and meet Sesshomaru. I knew I missed some parts of the dialogue from skimming through, but this was ridiculous. The lack of indication of what to do or where to go made this game nearly impossible without some sort of walkthrough. Yeah, I could have just went from location to location and spoke with every NPC, but with battles every 2 steps, nah man, to hell with that. I genuinely wanted to like this game. Apparently others did too, but the overall consensus is that the Divine Jewel is seen as an insult to fans of the series and only served as a cash grab. This technically was the last Inuyasha game dropped before mobile ones many years later. Could this possibly be the reason why? If you like this game, great, more power to you. I, however, wanted to slam my head in a car door. Sorry. That being said, thank you for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts, if you're a fan of the series, or if you just want to say hello. I'm really trying to have this channel grow a bit this year, so any support is greatly appreciated. Until next time, this is Icky Mickey. Goodbye.